It started 2 days after the funeral when the house turned from a home into a battleground. My grandmother's estate wasn't grand by any means, but it was valuable enough to sharpen teeth. The cousins circled like vultures, and the aunts weren't much better. By the time we were dividing up her things, love had given way to ledger sheets. I wasn't even supposed to be there that long. I'd flown in from Portland for the funeral, planning to fly back the next day. But Aunt Janice begged me to stay and help. Said I had a level head. I think she just meant I wasn't going to steal the good china. Grandma's house was old. Not charming old, creaky, drafty, everything smells like mothballs old. Every room held some version of her. Stiff doilies, teacups that hadn't been used in decades, faded photos where no one smiled. I'd just finished boxing up her linens when I noticed it. A small brass key wedged behind the radiator in her bedroom. No tag. No lock in sight. I don't know why I picked it up. Maybe grief, maybe curiosity. Maybe something else, something deeper. Whatever it was, I put it in my pocket and didn't say a word. Later that evening, I found myself in the attic. It wasn't nostalgia that brought me there. The rest of the family was drinking wine downstairs and pretending they didn't loathe each other. I needed air, or at least distance. The attic had always creeped me out as a kid. Now stepping through the cobweb doorway, it felt smaller, like the house itself was breathing slower, heavier. The boxes were labeled in my grandmother's shaky cursive: Christmas, photos, Dad's medals. I moved past them, brushing dust from my jeans when I noticed the paneling on the back wall. It didn't match. While the rest of the attic was rough wood and splintered beams, this section was newer. Clean even. Like someone had gone out of their way to hide something and then ran out of time or nerve. And there it was, a tiny lock. Brass. Old. I fell for the key in my pocket. The lock clicked open without resistance and the panel swung inward on a hidden hinge. A rush of stale air hit me, earthy, damp, tinged with mildew. I pulled out my phone and flicked on the flashlight. Behind the panel was a narrow stairwell, steep and unfinished, descending into darkness. Every rational bone in my body told me to stop. But I was already stepping forward, ducking into the hollow, feeling the weight of secrets settle around me like cobwebs. At the bottom of the stairs was a door. Heavy oak. No lock this time. Just a handle worn smooth by time. I turned it and stepped inside. The room was small, barely the size of a walk-in closet, but every inch of it was deliberate. There was a twin bed with neatly tucked sheets, a small desk with a lamp, and an old rocking chair in the corner. The air was thick with silence, the kind that knows how to keep a secret. A single bulb dangled from the ceiling unlit. I flicked the switch. Nothing. But what stopped me cold wasn't the furniture. It was the smell. Faint but unmistakable. Perfume. My grandmother's perfume. I found the diary in the drawer of the desk. It was bound in leather, cracked and flaking, with a satin ribbon marking the middle. No name on the cover. Just a single initial on the first page, L. The handwriting was small, precise. Not my grandmother's. Someone else's. Someone meticulous. Someone scared. August 3rd, 1961. He brought the medicine again today. Said I had to take it or things would get worse. I pretended to swallow it this time. Hid it under my tongue like before. I don't think he noticed. But the lock on the door was changed. He says it's for my safety. I think he means it. My throat tightened. I read on. August 10th. The window's still sealed. I tried shouting once but no one heard. Or maybe they did and didn't care. Either way, he says if I try again, he'll take the rocking chair away. I don't know why that scares me more than anything. August 14th. I dreamed about Mother last night. She stood at the foot of the bed and said nothing. Just stared. I woke up screaming. He didn't come. I think he's tired of pretending. I snapped the book shut. My fingers were trembling. Who was Elle? And more importantly, who the hell had locked her in here? I didn't tell anyone about the room. Not Aunt Janice. Not my cousins. Not even my own mother. Instead, I waited until the house was quiet again, until they were all gone or drunk or both, and I crept back down into that space like a sinner to a confessional. I brought the diary with me this time. Sat in the old rocking chair and let the silence stretch. The floor creaked beneath me. Not from me. From below. I froze. Then the chair rocked. Once. Twice. I stood so fast I nearly tripped over myself, the diary clutched to my chest. The perfume was stronger now. As if someone had just passed through. Sleep came like a thief that night, snatched in fits, stolen back by every creak of floorboard and echo of memory. I dreamed in fragments, a girl behind glass, a rocking chair moving on its own, my grandmother whispering my name from inside the walls. The next morning, the family was gone. The vultures had picked the bones of Grandma's estate clean. Even Aunt Janice had finally left, with one of the porcelain angel figurines I swear she used to call creepy as hell. I was alone in the house. Just me, the attic, and the diary. I read more over breakfast, if you can call black coffee and stale biscotti breakfast. August 20th, 1961. It was Sunday. I know because I could hear the church bells through the floorboards. I used to love Sundays. Now I count them like prisoners count bricks, proof that time still exists. August 22nd. I think he's watching me through the vent. I covered it with the bed sheet. He was angry. The chair's gone now. The handwriting was growing frantic, jagged in places like her hand trembled as she wrote. August 28th. I tried again today. The key was in his coat. He caught me. Said if I ever touched it again, I'd regret it. He slapped me. I didn't cry. I won't give him that. I had to stop. My stomach was turning. The girl L wasn't a figment. She was real. And she'd been locked in that room. My grandmother's room. Which meant someone in this family knew. I needed answers. I needed records. There's something about old houses, they keep everything. Receipts from 1974, birthday cards from people who've long since turned to dust, stacks of yellowed newspapers that no one bothered to throw away. I started with the attic. Again. But this time I wasn't looking for hidden doors. I was looking for evidence. Paper. Names. In a battered cedar chest beneath a pile of musty wool blankets, I found a box marked medical. Inside were folders. Dozens of them. Some were my grandfather's VA records. Some were my uncle's. He'd died young, hit by a car in '89. But at the bottom of the box was a thin file, no name on the tab, just a year. My pulse quickened. I opened it. Inside was a single document. Handwritten. Faded. It read, patient exhibits signs of extreme emotional distress. Episodes include hallucinations, refusal to eat, and violent outbursts. Guardianship granted to Charles M. Ellis. Patient is to remain under in-home supervision for duration of treatment. Charles M. Ellis. My great-uncle Charlie. The family drunk. The one we didn't talk about. The one who left town in the late 60s and was never heard from again. I took the file, the diary, and sat in the old den, the room with the fireplace Grandma used to keep burning even in the summer. The room that had seen birthday parties, Christmas mornings, and now, apparently, ghosts. Who was the girl? She wasn't my mother. The dates didn't fit. She wasn't Janice. Too young. I started doing math, fingers tapping the diary like a nervous metronome. And then it clicked. My grandmother had a sister. Lillian. The family always said she died young. Scarlet fever, maybe? Or a heart defect. I couldn't remember which lie we were supposed to believe. But what if she didn't die? What if she was locked away? I didn't know where to go with this. I mean, what the hell do you do when you find out your great-uncle was basically a jailer, and your grandmother's sister may have been held captive in a secret attic room? I called my mother. She didn't pick up. I considered calling Janice. But I couldn't stomach the idea of her brushing it off with that syrupy voice of hers. Oh honey, that was probably just someone's imagination. So I did the one thing I promised myself I wouldn't do. I went back to the room. This time I brought a lantern and gloves. If I was going to dig, I'd do it right. The room smelled even stronger now, dust, perfume, and something else I couldn't name. Something almost metallic. The bed was still made. The diary back in the drawer like it hadn't moved at all. I double-checked it page by page. I was looking for something. A hint. A clue. A goodbye. And then I found the last entry. September 4th, 1961. I don't think I'll be here much longer. Not because I'm getting better, but because he stopped pretending. He doesn't bring food anymore. Just the pills. I spit them out when I can, but I'm tired. So tired. If anyone finds this, I hope you know I tried. I fought. Even when no one came. Even when Mother stopped looking. I remember the rocking chair. I remember the song. I remember the light in the vent. Please remember me. I closed the book slowly. And then I saw it. Behind the rocking chair. The edge of the floor didn't match. A thin line of separation between two floorboards barely noticeable. My heart was a war drum. I pulled the gloves tighter and reached for the crowbar. The crowbar felt foreign in my hand, too heavy, too cold, too real. Like I wasn't supposed to be holding something so final. But I'd already pried open one secret. What was one more? I wedged the bar between the two floorboards behind the rocking chair. First, nothing budged. Then, with a groan like the house itself was warning me, the wood lifted. Dust rose in lazy clouds. Beneath the plank was a shallow cavity, maybe 2 feet deep. Inside, wrapped in a disintegrating wool blanket, was a box. Shoe-sized. Wooden. No lock. I sat back on my heels staring at it. Everything in me screamed not to open it. That some boxes are meant to stay shut. But of course I did. Inside were small, haunting things. A silver hairbrush, the kind with delicate filigree down the handle. A baby's rattle cracked, the beads inside muffled with age. A ribbon. Faded pink. Blood-stained. And a Polaroid. Black and white, corners curling, stained yellow by time. It showed a girl, maybe 13, sitting in the rocking chair. Thin. Pale. Eyes wide with something that looked like defiance wrapped in fear. Scrawled on the back. Lillian, 1961. I dropped the photo like it burned. So she had been here. This wasn't some fever dream. This room was her prison. And someone in my family, had watched her waste away inside it. I left the room in a daze, sealing the panel behind me as best I could. I couldn't bear the thought of that air, the haunted, perfumed stillness, leaking into the rest of the house. Downstairs, the silence was deafening. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty but full. Watching. Listening. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in Grandma's old bed. The diary on the nightstand. The photo face down beside it. The perfume was there too. Fainter now. But present. I started hearing the creak of the rocking chair. Slow. Deliberate. Mocking. I told myself it was the wind. The next morning, I drove to the county records office. I needed something official. Proof. Not just a journal and a creepy photo. I asked the clerk for information on Lillian Ellis. Date of birth. 1948. Last known residence, the house. I didn't say it was mine. Didn't say she might be buried in the walls. She typed. Frowned. Typed again. There's a birth record, she said. But no death certificate. What about a missing persons report? She shook her head. Nothing in the system. It's like she disappeared. I asked about Charles M. Ellis, my great-uncle. She found more. He'd been committed. In 1965. Schizophrenia. Paranoia. Dangerous tendencies. Released in 1971. No forwarding address. No obituary. No trace after that. Fit. Too well. But what didn't fit, what gnawed at me, was my grandmother. She'd lived in that house until she died. Slept just feet away from that attic room. She'd had to know. And she'd done nothing. I went home that night and poured myself 2 fingers of whiskey I found in the back of her pantry. She never drank. Said alcohol clouded judgment. Maybe that was the point. I brought the diary downstairs. Set it next to the photo. Watched the flame of the fireplace flicker as the sun disappeared. Then I saw the second photo. It wasn't there before. Same girl. Same chair. But this time she wasn't alone. Behind her in the shadows stood a man. Tall. Expression unreadable. Hand on her shoulder. On the back. He promised not to tell. He lied. I dropped the photo and backed away. The fire sputtered. The rocking chair creaked. But I was downstairs now. And the chair was in the attic. I ran. Up the stairs. Into the bedroom. Pulled open the panel. Silence. The chair was still. But the diary, I'd left it downstairs. And now it was on the desk again. Open to a page I hadn't seen before. September 7th, 1961. He said Mother gave up on me. That she told him to do what he must. I didn't believe him at first. But he knew things only she would know. He knew my lullaby. My favorite story. He said she was tired of hiding me. That I was a stain. A shame. A burden. I hope it's not true. But I think it is. I sat down on the edge of the bed. I don't know how long I stayed there. Time lost meaning in that room. It always had. Eventually I climbed back out, closed the panel and called my mother again. She answered this time. Honey, she said, voice thick with sleep. Is everything okay? Did you know Grandma had a sister? Silence. Lillian, I said. Born in 1948. No death certificate. Long pause. Then softly. You shouldn't go digging in things that don't belong to you. My skin prickled. She lived in that house, didn't she? I asked. Locked away. In the attic. She was sick, my mother said. You wouldn't understand. Try me. Another silence. Then. She wasn't right. She hurt herself. Hurt others. Uncle Charlie tried to help. That room, it was for her protection. That's what they said. That's what who said? I snapped. Click. She hung up. My mother didn't call back. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not even when I texted. What aren't you telling me? Silence. Which meant one thing, guilt. Not necessarily her own but inherited. Passed down like china or trauma. She knew something and she'd chosen to carry it in silence. But I had a different inheritance now. One laced with dust, madness, and perfume. I went to the police. Not to report a crime, not exactly. I told them I'd found old documents, a diary that suggested abuse, possibly imprisonment. I didn't mention the attic room. Or the floorboards. They gave me a sympathetic look. Said if I had a name, they could look into it. When I said Lillian Ellis, one of the officers furrowed his brow. That name sounds familiar, he said. Might be something in the archives. He promised to follow up. But I could already feel it. The slow bureaucratic death of a story too old to matter. Back at the house, I tried to leave the attic alone. I lasted 6 hours. Then I went back. This time, I brought a notebook of my own. I needed to understand what had happened to her. Needed to map it out like an investigator. Not just read her pain but document it. But something was wrong the moment I stepped inside. The diary was gone. I tore through the desk, the bed, even under the floorboards. Nothing. Only the rattle and the ribbon and the photograph with the man in the shadows. Then I noticed the rocking chair. It was no longer facing the bed. It was facing the door. Like it had been waiting for me. I didn't sleep that night. Again. And not because of guilt or fear, but because of what I found in the chimney. It happened by accident. I tried to light a fire to distract myself and smelled something wrong, mildew maybe. Rot. I reached in to clear the flue and felt something lodged inside. Wrapped in oilcloth, yellowed and stiff. Inside, a bundle of letters. Unsent. Each addressed to Mama. Each signed, L. October 1961. Mama, I don't know what I did wrong. Charlie says I scare people. That you told him to take care of me because I wouldn't stop screaming. But Mama, I was screaming for you. Why didn't you come? November 1961. I heard the music again today. From the vent. Christmas carols, maybe? I remember decorating the tree with you. Did we do that last year? Or was that a dream? I can't tell anymore. December 1961. If you find this, I forgive you. The last letter was dated January 3rd, 1962. Mama, Charlie says I'm going away soon. He won't say where. He's been different. Quieter. I think he's afraid. I think he sees her too now, the girl in the mirror. The one who cries when I'm quiet. I'm not angry anymore. Just tired. Please tell my story. Please remember I was here. I sat in the living room, staring at the letters spread out across the coffee table. Each one a testament. A plea. A ghost in cursive. Then I heard the knock. Sharp. Measured. Not a neighbor's knock. I opened the door to find a man in his 60s. Thin. Neatly dressed. He looked familiar in that uncanny way, like someone from a dream. Can I help you? I asked. You're Elizabeth's granddaughter, right? He asked. I nodded slowly. I was wondering if I could speak with you. About Lillian. I let him in. His name was George Weaver. He'd grown up 3 houses down. Same street. Same block. I was 15, he said. And in love with your great-aunt. I blinked. You knew her. He smiled sadly. Everyone did. Until they didn't. According to George, Lillian was the kind of girl who left footprints where she walked. Curious, bold, prone to fits of laughter that turned to tears without warning. And then one day, he said, she was just gone. Your family said she'd gone to a sanatorium in Maine. But I never believed that. Why not? He pulled something from his coat pocket. A photo. Same rocking chair. Same attic room. But taken from outside through the tiny vent in the eaves. The image was blurry. But clear enough. She was there, George said. I took this in December 61. I climbed onto the roof after hearing crying for weeks. I showed it to the sheriff. He said it was none of my business. My hands were shaking. Why didn't you tell someone else? I asked. He looked down. Because the next week, my bike was found in the creek. My dog went missing. My mother told me to let it go. He leaned in, voice cracking. But I never forgot her. That night, I couldn't go near the attic. The air in the house felt tighter now, like it was listening. Like it was remembering too. I sat with George in the kitchen, both of us staring at that old Polaroid like it might offer an apology. What happened to her? I asked. He hesitated. I don't think she died here. My breath caught. What do you mean? I think Charlie moved her. That she didn't die in that room. Then where did she go? His eyes narrowed. That's what we're going to find out. The next morning, George and I sat at the kitchen table with coffee and 30-year-old grief between us. She's not buried there, he kept saying like a mantra. I saw her. Months after they said she was gone. Where? I asked, exhausted, hopeful, afraid to hope. The Briar Ridge home, he said. Upstate. It used to be a long-term care facility for the mentally ill. Shut down in the early 80s after a scandal, abuse, neglect. Place was a nightmare factory. Do you know for sure she was there? George looked at me, haunted. No. But I think we can find out. We drove out that same day. The house felt heavier than ever as we left, like a sleeping beast we'd finally dared to prod. I locked the door behind me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something inside didn't want us to go. That the walls had grown used to holding secrets. It took 2 hours to reach Briar Ridge. What was left of it anyway? It stood like a ruin, windows boarded, roof sagging, ivy creeping through cracked concrete. A forgotten place for forgotten people. This used to be state-run, George muttered. Files should be in the county archives. But we might get lucky. He jimmied the lock with the ease of someone who had once been a teenage trespasser and motioned me inside. The air inside was thick with mildew and something else. Not quite death. Not quite dust. Something stale and sad. We searched for nearly an hour. Most of the filing cabinets had been emptied or vandalized. Rats scattered when we moved boxes. Hope faded fast. Until I found the ledger. Buried in a filing cabinet beneath broken glass and rotting paperwork, it was a thin book labeled Admissions, 1962. I flipped pages, heart pounding. And there she was. Lillian M. Ellis. Date of admission, January 11th, 1962. Admitted by Charles M. Ellis. Condition, catatonia. Subject, unresponsive. No verbal communication. Signs of trauma. I stared at her name until the letters blurred. She was alive, I whispered. He brought her here. George was silent beside me. Then he flipped to the discharge column. And frowned. No date. which meant one of two things: she was transferred, or she died here. But no record of either. We returned to town and visited the county archives. There was no death certificate, no transfer record, nothing. It was as if the system had opened its jaws around Lillian Ellis and swallowed her whole. I filed a formal inquiry. The woman behind the desk seemed genuinely sympathetic, the way people are when they think you're chasing ghosts. George dropped me back at the house that evening, his hand on my shoulder. "You keep digging," he said. "You're the only one who ever did." And then he was gone. The attic felt different when I went back. Like it was watching. The rocking chair was turned toward the bed again. And the diary was back. Not in the drawer. On the pillow. Open to a page that hadn't been there before. January 10th, 1962. He says I'm leaving tomorrow. That I'll be going where they'll understand me. I don't believe him. I think he's done pretending I'm still human. But I want you to know I never stopped being me. Even when no one listened. Even when they called me broken. I was always Lillian. And I forgive you. Even if you don't deserve it. My eyes burned. I whispered to the room, "I'm sorry." And the perfume returned, soft, almost kind. Then the rocking chair moved. Once. Gently. And stopped. 3 days later, the county called. "There's a woman who matches Lillian's description," the clerk said. "But she's under a different name. Transferred in 1980 to private care. Last known residence, Pine Hollow Rest Home." My pulse skipped. "Is she?" "Alive," she said. "I visited Pine Hollow that afternoon. The facility was bright, clean, full of nurses who smiled too much. They led me to a courtyard where an elderly woman sat by the fountain, staring into nothing. "Ms. Lily Morgan?" I asked gently. No response. I sat beside her. Slowly. Carefully. Her hair was thin, gray-white. Her face lined with time and silence. But something in her eyes flickered when I said, "Lillian." She turned. Just barely. And mouthed a single word. "Home." I visit her every week now. Sometimes she speaks. Sometimes she doesn't. But I read her the diary. Page by page. Her story. Her truth. And when I do, the nurses say she hums. A lullaby no one else knows. I've made copies of the records. Filed complaints. Reached out to local journalists. I don't know if justice will come this late, but the silence is broken. The attic room is empty now. The rocking chair still. But sometimes when I walk past, I swear I hear it move. Softly. Like gratitude. Or maybe goodbye.